Yo, what is going on today, guys? I'm back here for another video. This time we're going to be ranking all of the decks for the Triumphant Light season, all the meta relevant competitive decks. So we have our tier list. So we have S+, which is the best deck in the game. We have S, which is strong top tier, A, good high tier, B, alright mid tier, C, okay low tier, E, rogue, which is aka not good, but maybe it has like a decent matchup into the meta, or people are just playing it because they're a fan favorite deck. And you know, it can do good, but very rarely. And then we have F, which is just not good into this meta slash random decks that are on this tier list maker, because I found this one. And there are some weird decks that are just like not meta relevant, like for example like the Lake Trio is here, so that would probably go into that tier. But yeah. So anyways, as someone, I mean, I'm not the best player in the world, bro. Like I've won 2 tournaments. I've won this season with Palkia and Glacion. And I know sometimes in those videos, bro, like when I'm like once I win, I'm like, oh, I'm him. But to be honest, I mean, I've won 2 tournaments. I have a couple of top cuts. I like to think I know what I'm talking about. I'm not the best player. I mean, there's people who are way more consistent than I am. I'm not even anywhere close to them. I want to be. I mean, it would be cool, but I do keep up with the meta. I do play in tournaments. So I feel like I kind of know what I'm talking about. So remember, everything is just my opinion at the end of the day. Some things I can be biased towards. Anyways, let's start ranking some decks. Just an FYI, I keep referring to non-EX Pokemon as basics sometimes. So if you hear me say like something is like a basic dominant deck, I just mean non-EX sometimes. This is an FYI. So first off, let's just get it over with. The best deck in the game, Dialga and Arceus. So super fast ramp up with Dialga basically guarantees once you get 2 energy on Dialga, Arceus is online, because you put the 2 energy, next turn you put the 3rd one. You could swap out of a Leaf or just swap out Dialga. You start doing 130, 140 damage, possibly more considering if you have a Rocky Helmet on Arceus. The deck just ramps up super fast, does very fast high damage, and it's just crazy. You have access to Mew, which shuts out other EX Pokemon from being like super good. Like every Arceus and Dialga deck is almost playing Mew. There are the variants that play the 2 Shamans, but the most common one is Mew, and Mew shuts out Charizard. Because like, dude, Charizard was pretty decent last season. It was a top 10 deck, possibly even top 6 to top 5, but it can't compete when every deck is playing Mew. All they have to do is knock out a Moltres, which is very easy. Moltres has 140 HP, Arceus can do 140 for Geo, and then the Charizard comes in, knocks out an Arceus, and then they have Mew waiting in the back, because it's very easy to set up both an Arceus and Dialga with Mew. So the deck basically has access to everything. They have good ramp, they have Shaman and Potions for heal, because they're all basics that they can play a bunch of support cards. Yeah, and again, like they can play a bunch of support cards, so they have Cyrus's, Geos, possibly Sabrina's, Leaves. They just have, the deck has everything. The deck has like no weakness besides being weak to Rampardos, because Arceus happens to be a normal type, so it's weak to fighting. That's like the one weakness of the deck. So speaking of Rampardos, so Rampardos is very strong right now in the meta because Arceus is the best deck. So basically Rampardos is 130 damage. Lucario set up 150, guarantees one-shots everything in the deck. You know, Dialga can't live with Giant Cape, but usually they would take some damage because they have Sudowoodo. Sudowoodo does 50 damage. We were in a heavily dominated EX basic format, so Sudowoodo is a big buff, because this deck was like a top 10, top 15 deck last season. I mean, it won an Arceus. It wasn't the best by any means, but it definitely had its place in the meta. The addition of Sudowoodo and basically this meta, the deck is super strong. Marshadow to do 100 to 120 damage, possibly even 140. Can't even one-shot an Arceus if you have Lucario up. Sudowoodo doing 50 to 70 damage, depending, you know, like I said, who it's attacking. Plus, if you have a Lucario up, the deck is just very well. Also, it's 3 basics. You have to knock out 3 Pokemon. Just very fast damage and a lot of damage against the best decks in the game right now. So it's yeah, just very good. You know, Marshadow, Sudowoodo, Rampardos, Lucario. The deck usually just plays like 1 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus. Doesn't have the most support cards because you're playing like 10 Pokemon. Actually, I think you're playing like 12 Pokemon, so sometimes you can't like run like a lot of support cards. Like you don't have any swap cards usually, so that could be like one downside of the deck. Like I know 18 core Articuno is really good against this deck because they have like 2 Sabrinas, 2 Cyruses, which can disrupt the deck this deck very heavily, because Lucario and Sudowoodo both have 2 retreat costs. So if you like Sabrina one in early when it doesn't have energy to attack, it just basically becomes useless and it's like a free knockout for your opponent. So yeah, I think these are the 2 best decks in the game, and I think Arceus is so broken because the thing about, okay, so let's just say Arceus didn't exist. Arceus gatekeeps so many decks just because of how good it is. Like I said, like the Mew gatekeeps like Palkia and Charizard were popping up. Obviously, Palkia is still meta relevant. Charizard not so much. But we saw Lucario Rampardos was good last patch. It didn't really gatekeep anything. But because Arceus is here gatekeeping, Rampardos becomes the second best deck because the other decks that could possibly be good just can't do anything. So I genuinely believe Arceus is actually in its own tier, just because like if this didn't exist, there'd be other decks that counter this. I actually believe like Leafeon Celebi would possibly be like an A or S tier deck if Arceus didn't exist, and that deck is very good against Rampardos in my opinion. So next up, that's the only two decks I'm gonna put in S. So we move on to the A category, which is 18 card Articuno. Basically with the introduction of Irida, Articuno could have potentially been the best deck if Arceus didn't exist. If we just took out Arceus in the meta and we didn't like think about what decks could pop back up because Arceus disappeared, and we were just looking at the tier list, I genuinely think Articuno would be the best deck right now. But obviously, you know, other decks would pop back up. Rampardos wouldn't be as strong, so maybe electric types could pop back up, so maybe water decks wouldn't be as strong. But I mean, it's very solid. Articuno has 2 Cyruses. With the introduction of Irida, you can live those extra hits that Articuno needed, and I mean, you just have access to everything: potions, Mars, red card, potentially Misty, Irida, etc. I mean, it's a very basic deck. It's probably the best control deck we have, because if you don't land a good Misty Flip on Articuno, you do have to like, and you do go first. Like, let's say it does take some time to be able to do some damage on Articuno, so you're basically relying on like your Mars and your Sabrinas and stuff to basically disrupt your opponent's play, bring in stuff that doesn't have energy and that can't easily be swapped out. So yeah, it's just a very strong deck in the meta. Also, I totally forgot that I actually do have a Limitless open, by the way, and just to be able to showcase some points. So because these are the top 3 decks. Like, yes, I'm basing some of like my stuff off of Limitless, but I'm also basing some of the stuff just off playing. And obviously, you know, like the tier list is going to be similar to Limitless because, you know, it takes in the play all the data. But I do have some different opinions. So if we look at this, so basically Dialga Arceus has 20% of the usage rates and a very high percent win rate. It literally has almost the most. The only one that has higher is 18 card Articuno in Pocket, but there are less players, only 3% of 5% basically. The last time we had this many people playing a certain deck, so let's go into Space Time Showdown. We had like a pretty equal split. Like Celebi ended up becoming like the best deck in like the last 2 weeks, but these are very close, like 2% basically apart, like maybe like 3%. And then and that's not even 20. This is only 13, like if I rounded up. Mythical Island, we had Mewtwo at 17%. Yeah, you know, pretty high. We also had Gyarados at 11 though, so like a 5% difference. So, you know, it wasn't too bad. But if you go into Genetic Apex, 24%, a whole 10% more, and that is even more than 10% between Pikachu and Mewtwo being played in competitive play. Same thing for Triumphant Light, has a whole 10% more than the second best deck. So that's why I do think Arceus personally is like the best deck in the game. We know it's the best deck in the game, but I think it's in a tier of its own, just off that data alone. And then what I do want to do is just because I can, I'll basically show you guys some like a list. So if I go to this and I open in Deck Builder, this is a very standard basically new age Arceus build. They're running 2 Geos and 2 Rocky Helmets instead of 2 Capes and like a Sabrina and 1 Geo. So this is a very standard build. And then if we go into Rampardos, I just want to show you guys the deck list too while I'm doing this. I was going to do while I was talking about them, but you know, I kind of like skipped that open this in Deck Builder. Yeah, so this is a very standard Lucario build. Almost all of them look like this. Sometimes some take out a Pokemon Communication, add like a Leaf, maybe like a second Sabrina. But for the most part, it's 1 Marshall, 1 Sudowoodo, 2 Lucarios, and then 2 Rampardos lines. And then for 18 card Articuno, let me just go to it. Also, I'm just looking at the best one. Obviously, you know, there are some variations for especially 18 card Articuno. Some people do run Mars. Some people play the other one. So this just did super good. Let's just open in Deck Builder. And yeah, this one is playing red card instead of Mars. Some people play Mars, but it may make sense in case you want to use like a support card on the same turn. And yeah, I mean, just 18 card Articuno. So next up we have the deck I'm probably the most familiar with because it's the one that I tried to play the most. It just ended up not working. So Celebi Leafeon is a very solid mid tier. So the weakness is 130 and 140 HP on both the attackers. So basically Arceus can easily one-shot both of them. Obviously, you know, Giant Cape does counter that. The thing about running the Giant Cape though is you can't run Rocky Helmet because you just don't have room in the deck. And And obviously, you can't have a Rocky Helmet and Giant Cape on the same time, or on the same Pokemon. I think Leafeon's damage output is just too slow because it only has 70, or too low, I mean. So 70 damage. Let's say you attack an Arceus. They have 140 HP. They run Shaman. All they have to do is Shaman Hill once, and you have to 3-hit them because you don't really have room for Geos in this deck. And we don't have the Rocky Helmet for the additional 20. So a lot of the times we have to like 3-hit a lot of things to be able to knock out something with Leafeon. And possibly 4. And like, yeah, you do have access to like Irida and Erica. But at the same time, like, what's the point of having those hill cards if you just go one shot anyways? And plus, Celebi is a coin flip at the end of the day. Even if you can ramp up Celebi to like 6+ energy, there's always that chance that Celebi just screwing you over. I mean, it's happened to me plenty of times where I've been like in a game-winning situation where I have like 7 energy on Celebi. I have like an Arceus at full HP, and then my Celebi lands like 2 out of 7, and I lose because of it. So yeah, just inconsistent, low damage at the beginning. Like Celebi has high output at like late game, but the early game is just very kind of like whatever. You don't really accomplish much a lot of times. And also, for example, if you're like attacking a Palkia too, Palkia has 150 HP, so you have to 3-shot that. And then if they have 2 Eridas, that's even like 4 hits sometimes. So I feel like in the meta, the damage output is just not high enough on Leafeon specifically. Like, I think Exeggutor has those higher peaks and has more HP, so I feel like it could possibly be a little better. It's kind of like a trade-off. Like, do you want like the higher peaks of landing in 80 heads with Exeggutor and then having less energy on Celebi, or do you want more of like a Celebi endgame? So it's kind of like all depends on what you want. Also, Celebi Rocky Helmet, like let's say you go for attacking Arceus and like let's say you didn't get a KO, a Leafeon got obliterated, but you set up a lot of energy on Celebi. All it takes is 1 Rocky Helmet in that Arceus matchup. You attack, you go down to 130. Arceus is gonna come in and just one-shot you if they have it in the back. So yeah, the deck is very good, just not in this meta. So next up we have a very similar deck, which is Exeggutor Celebi, which I actually do think is like kind of stronger because you're not playing the Irida package, and you also like don't have to like run X speeds. Like Exeggutor is just more based on like it kind of like disrupting your opponent. I feel like because you used to play like 2 Sabrinas in this variant, but like the Leafeon one, you're usually playing like more like support cards like X speeds or Iridas depending on what version you're playing. So yeah, Exeggutor, going first is super strong. Laying those heads can get some huge damage if you land like 2 heads back to back, and it is 160 HP, so it can't get one shot by Arceus, so you can't actually run Rocky Helmet. So I guess I could try to order these. I probably would say Exeggutor is a little bit better than Leafeon just for that factor. I feel like yeah, I feel like just the burst potential. Like obviously, it is a coin flip at the end of the day. Sometimes you can't have those bad games. You get a bunch of tells. I personally have had that happen to me. But I mean, if you have one of those heads where your Exeggutor is just popping off, dude, it's crazy. And also, I mean, it is possible to win with just 2 Exeggutors, but I think it's very unlikely to win against 2 Leafeon Celebis. The thing about Leafeon Celebi though, I think it does have a good matchup in the Articuno, and like a decent one against Lucario. And I think both of these decks have a decent matchup actually into these 2 decks. So let me actually go into Limitless once again, and let me just show you guys deck lists for these 2 decks, just because I want to show you guys some like sample deck lists just so you guys can take. And yeah, this is a very simple one. This person's actually running the EV that's continuous. You could change the EV. Just don't play the one that's like 2 energy for 30 damage. That one sucks. But yeah, this is a pretty standard list. This one's actually a more Celebi focus with the X speeds, basically to swap around 2 Leafeons, the ramp up Celebi very fast. But if you want to play the water variant, what they do is they just take out the 2 X speeds and play 2 Iridas, or 1 X speed and 1 Irida. So that is something you can do. And then let's go into Exeggutor Celebi, which, let's see, yeah, very standard list. I mean, I probably could just put on my own deck list because it's like the same thing. But yeah, it's very similar. They just have 2 Sabrinas. They don't really have the Iridas or the X speeds. They don't really care about swapping out Exeggutor. I mean, so some do play a leaf, like some do include like a leaf and like cut something out, like maybe like a potion or like a tool card, but for the most part, it's like the standardized list. So now going back into both Leafeon, I guess I'll just finish all the Leafeon decks. So Leafeon on Mega, it's just it's all right. I mean, literally on Mega just the worst Arceus. Just play this. It's like, why play Leafeon the ramp up beyond Mega for 120 damage, which is a stage 1, where these both are stage 1. So you have to get a stage 1 to ramp up into your Pokemon that's also a stage 1. When you can just play Dialga, which is a basic, to ramp up your basic. So it's like it's just a worse version of Arceus, Dialga, unfortunately. So I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but yeah. And then honestly, same thing with Exeggutor. Like they're not like total garbage. Like they could definitely still do, maybe it could, I don't know. So they're not like total garbage, but like they're just not good. Like just go play, if you want to play on Mega, bro, just play Arceus. I'm gonna be real. If you want to play on Mega, for like I said, this is competitively. John Mega is just not him anymore. Extremely, I mean, it's still a good card. Don't get me wrong. It still definitely can do good in tournaments. Like 120 damage is a lot of damage, to be honest. It's just the thing. Like Arceus is just Arceus is the same thing and just like a better deck. So next up we have Celebi Superior, which is an ancient deck. Dude, no one's really playing this anymore. It's just very inconsistent. You need, you know, a stage 2 Pokemon to basically get Celebi set up. So I'm gonna put it out as Rogue because, you know, if you get super lucky, it can do its thing. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it as not good, bro. It just takes too long to set up in this meta because Arceus just cooks it, dude. I'm gonna be real. Next up we have Charizard. So Charizard is actually like a low tier deck. The thing about Charizard is, like I mentioned earlier, Mew just gatekeeps the hell out of this deck. So that's like the problem with Charizard. I mean, the deck like is less. So it's just like, dude, like literally, like Charizard just can't do anything like against Arceus Dialga because they just get Mew set up so fast, and it takes you a while because Charizard is a stage 2. Moltres sometimes just screws you over, and it's just like, what are they gonna do? Like against all these other decks, Charizard's pretty decent against. I'm not gonna lie, like Rampardos matchup might be iffy because you have to go through like 3 basics. So like, and if they have Rampardos like Lucario, like you might be able to knock out Charizard. So I'm not too sure about that matchup. I would assume it would be like alright, still probably doable, because, you know, Rampardos and Charizard were meta at the same time last season. So I'm assuming Charizard could do it, but this matchup is just so skewed, bro, because they have Mew. So here's a sample Charizard deck. Some of them are starting to run Shaman basically to counter Articuno, so you can't get swapped in. But if you don't want to play the Shaman, I'm assuming they just play like something else, like maybe like a Sabrina or a Potion basically. So this is just a simple, and that did pretty good. I did like a big tournament. Also for decks like Leafeon and Mega, I'm not gonna showcase deck profiles. One, just because you can't really find them on Limitless. Plus, they're just like not really meta relevant. Like they're definitely, actually, dude, they look-y could just be bad. Now, yeah, they are honestly, you know, honestly, yeah, I'm just gonna put them in bad, bro, because they actually are bad. You just don't accomplish anything. They're just garbage. Like I really love these 2 decks. They're just not good. Next up we have Venusaur. Venusaur straight trash. I'm not gonna go into it. If you want to see my opinion, I'm the biggest Venusaur fan, bro. I love Venusaur. You can't make him work. He's not good in the meta. Arceus obliterates him. That's all I'm gonna say. And even like Rampardos records like mop you before you can even get Venusaur set up too. So even though like I feel like once you get Venusaur set up, you're pretty good in the Rampardos matchup. But if you brick, bro, like they're just gonna go through you. So that is something. Okay, so I want to go like against like some of the top tier decks now. So I think Palkia is a very strong deck, but the problem is Rocky Helmet is very annoying, and Mew. So Palkia, let's just say Palkia is at full HP. You put a giant cape on 170 HP. Let's say you attack the Arceus or the Dialga, but they have a Rocky Helmet. You get on the 150 HP. That Mew's gonna come in and mop you. Or you somehow attack something and you have you knock a dog out. You're at full HP, 170 with a giant cape. Mew comes in. The Mew has a Rocky Helmet on it. All of a sudden, and then they Shaman Hill and they Potion the backland, so you can't Cyrus anything in. So you either have to play a Sabrina and Palkia, which I personally do just because of that situation, or you have to just attack the Mew and you just take the draw. And that's considering if you don't have any basic Pokemon, also you can't even take the draw because then you just lose. So I think Palkia is very gatekept by the fact that Mew is very meta relevant, because I think the Rampardos matchup is actually very annoying. I think Rampardos might slightly win that, like a 55 to 45, maybe like 60 to 40 on obviously the Rampardos favor. Articuno is pretty easy, you know, you just get Palkia set up and then you can start one-shotting them. And the same thing with this variant. So I think this variant is probably like a little bit stronger. I'm probably gonna put it here, to be honest, which is Palkia and Palkia EX and then Origin form Palkia. So basically the thing is you ramp up Manaphy, ramp up both the Palkias. Manaphy faints, or if it lives, you swap out Origin form to do some damage. Basically, you try to get a KO, if not force something in. And then after that, like Palkia can come. I think this form is actually better than the Rampardos matchup. Where I think either way, I think the Arceus matchup is still very annoying. The only benefit of like Origin form Palkia is that Like Mew is not very good. I mean, if your can copy his attack can actually one-shot you because you do 120 damage. But they also have to land ahead, so I feel like it's slightly better. Because it also is a basic, so you can run more support cards where like you have to like run Eevee and Vaporeon. But yeah. It's, you know, it's the same thing. A Palkia just takes a long time getting set up, so if you don't get like early Misty, or if you have like a Bastard and you don't get Manaphy, like sometimes they just set up faster, like the decks in the meta. Although like I really do think these decks are so strong. It's just literally Arceus. Dude, I think water decks are actually broken. Arceus is just so broken, it makes water decks, they're just not broken in the meta. Because you just like can't compete sometimes with Arceus. That's the crazy thing. So now let me just find some deck lists for these decks. We have that, and then let me see, where's like Palkia Vaporeon? It's down here. Yeah, it's not doing as good. I think this origin form is definitely popping off way more. So let's just open that in deck builder, and then I could do this. Third out of 298. It's good enough. So yeah, this is the origin form. This is traditionally what it looks like. You need 2 giant capes as necessary. You cannot run Rocky Helmet in this deck. Misty's and Irida is very good. Yeah, this one's playing Sabrina and Cyrus. I think this is the wave. I think 2 Cyruses is too gimmicky in this meta where like Shaman and Potion isn't the best deck. Because sometimes you can just make Cyrus useless. Then if we look at the Vaporeon, very standard. 2 EVs, 2 Vaporeons, the Misties. This one's actually playing a Giovanni instead of Irida, which can make sense because Arceus of a giant cape, you know, 160 HP. I've always thought about running Giovanni, but if you don't want to run Giovanni, you can run an Irida. I think this deck is a little bit weird actually. I think personally, like if I play this deck, bro, what I would do is I would run like 1 Eevee, just because I don't want to like start with Eevee personally. I would probably add an Irida somewhere, take out the Geo for a Sabrina, just because like Giovanni is very gimmicky. Like you have to have it at the right time, and then probably like 2 Rocky Helmets for like a cape, or like take out the Rocky Helmet for 2 capes. And then I actually don't even think you need the X speed. I think you'd rather run Leaf. So I feel like there's a lot of changes I would make of this deck, but you know, it did good. So the deck obviously works. Obviously there's always like customizations you personally can make depending on your playstyle and like what you want in the deck. So next up, let's just see what we have. So Infernape low tier stage 2, actually pretty good because of Heatran's addition. 140 damage, so it does 162 Dialga because of the weakness to fire that it has. And you know, 140 can one-shot Arceus if they don't have a giant cape, so it's pretty decent in that department. But water decks are super strong, so that's like one bad thing about this. And yeah, it's just a stage 2, and like to have Heatran be able to like swap out, like you're kind of like forced to play Arceus. You don't like necessarily have to if you don't want to like get the free swap outs, but probably worth it. So you have like, let's see, 6, 8, you have like 9 Pokemon, so sometimes Pokemon communication can be like a little bit inconsistent. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's pretty strong, dude. 140 damage. Heatran possibly doing 40 to 80. And Infernape is 170 HP, so if you can get Infernape out, it does live like 2 hits most of the time. Yeah, it's just sometimes you like can't get it set up fast enough. So this is like traditionally what like an Infernape deck will look like, with the 2 Infernape lines, 2 Heatrans, the Arceus. So we have the Rocky Helmet because we don't really care about like Heatran living. We just want it to be a tank, and if it's not attacking, we want at least some chip damage because, you know, like I said, retreat. Some decks play the regular Arceus, but like I feel like Arceus decks is probably overall better because, you know, you can actually go into it if you don't have Infernape, and because, you know, Arceus is just strong anyways. So yeah, this is a pretty standard list. Some play Cyrus, some play Sabrina, some don't play the Potion, some just play Cyrus and Sabrina. But you know, you usually want the Dawn because you could like retreat with Heatran if it has like Energy, and then you get like Dawn on Infernape, do 2 Infernape attacks back to back, or even go into like the Arceus after Heatran attacks, you know. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of filler in this list, so I'm just going to very quickly speedrun and then play some stuff in garbage. Arcanine is garbage. It has not been meta relevant since Mythical Island. Blaine is garbage. Dude, it's too low HP. We have 18 card Palkia, which is very similar to the other decks that I've been talking about. Actually, like, I'm just gonna put it. Yeah, actually, I think it might be one lower, bro. I'm not gonna lie. No, I'll put it in B. It's still a Palkia variant at the end of the day, and it's still pretty strong if you can't get like a good Misty Flip. There's also the 18 card Palkia and Articuno. There's like 1 Palkia and then 1 Articuno and 18 trader cards. I would say it's the same thing. It's the same thing I've been talking about. Also, I won't show a deck list for this one, but it's literally just the same thing as our Articuno deck, just with 1 Articuno and 1 Palkia, and the same thing for the Palkia 18 card trader deck. It's literally the same thing as the Articuno deck, but just with 2 Palkias instead. So let's see, we have a bunch of filler. Lieutenant Surge sucks. Volkner sucks in this meta. Pachi sucks. He gets cooked by Rampardos, and also Arceus, like 120 HP, possibly 140 if you go into Giant Cape. All you do is you attack them at full HP, you hit a Rocky Helmet, Arceus is going to come in and just cook you. So Pachi just cannot compete in this meta, with both Rampardos and Arceus being the best deck, which is very ironic because Pachi would be so, dude, if Arceus didn't exist and water types were meta, bro, I think Pachi would be popping off. Possibly, dude, even Pikachu or like some sort of like Volkner variant could come back. But because water decks are gate kept by Arceus, it's very tragic for electric types right now. Pikachu is garbage. Gengar is absolute trash. I almost want to make a whole tier just for Gengar itself, because that Pokemon is garbage, dude. Miss Magius, and it's just not good. Miss Magius and Togekiss is not good. Mewtwo is not good. Light Trio is a gimmick. Garchomp EX sucks. I'll put Golem in Rogue. I think Golem always has potential to do good. I mean, it is a basic deck. Also, it can, like, depending on which one you are playing, can do really good because it is a fighting deck. Can one shot actually a Arceus, depending on like if they have a Giant Cape or not. Or you can play the one that does 150 damage, guarantee you knockout on Arceus. It's just, you know, it's a stage 2, very slow. You have to like, also it's, you know, 4 energy on a stage 2 too. So yeah, it just takes a lot of setup. But if you can get Golem set up pretty early, like you get a couple Brocks, like you get the whole evolution line, you can do some work. It's just the deck is very, very inconsistent, and like it just needs a lot of setup time. Weezing sucks in this meta because Arceus can't even get poisoned. Not only that, but like everything does so much damage that like yeah, you get like Koga out, but like what are you playing with Weezing that's really good? Like Darkrai is not that good either right now in the meta. Marowak is just, I mean, by the way, the decks in this tier can do good. Like and like I feel like Leafeon, Mega, like I almost just want to put them in there because I don't think they're as bad as these. But like these decks like can like win a couple rounds on Swiss. I'm not saying that they can't. I think Marowak has probably like the highest potential out of like anything I'm seeing in this deck. I think Machamp sucks. Gallade, I'm actually kind of surprised they just have a Gallade variant, which I guess makes sense because some people play Hitmonlee, some people play Lucario. So the only other higher tier deck I think is Gallade, and that's because it is very good into Articuno and very good on the Arceus. So basically, you know, 2 energy, 70 damage, doing 20 more for every energy they have. So Arceus, you know, is gonna have minimum 3. So that's 90, 110, 130 damage. Plus the weakness 150. You're going to be doing 150 damage to Arceus if you can't get Gallade set up. And the thing about Gallade, it's one of those stage 2s that is very low energy. So once you actually do get all the evolution pieces, you can start attacking like right away. With like some of Venusaur, like even if you start like have all the evolution pieces, you can't do the 4 energy attack like as fast as possible. So that's the benefit of Gallade. Not only that, but you can play Hitmonlee, which is very good into the Rampardos match to basically threaten that fossil if they don't have the evolution, and being able to use 2 Cyruses to basically disrupt them. So Gallade just had a really good, huge like pop off in these big tournaments. So a standard deck list looks something like this. With the 2 current locks, you got to play the ones that are colorless. 2 Gallades, 2 Hitmonlees, and then the 1 more Shadow. And then they have the 2 Cyruses with the Hitmonlees. They have the Mars and like the Rocky Helmets because, you know, you don't want these things like Giant Cape, and then Gallade has 170 HP. You don't need a Giant Cape because Giant Cape's not gonna let you live 2 more attacks. Like you're gonna faint 2 anyways. Mars is like they disrupt like Arceus in case they're trying to like play safe and like keep stuff like in their hand on the bench. So yeah, it's just very good in the top 2 decks. Let's see, what other filler decks are there? Wigglytuff is complete garbage. Pidgeotto is not good. This Berry Staraptor thing is not good. It kind of like popped off. It was I'm pretty sure it was like Staraptor Darkrai. Doesn't really do anything. Okay, so we have Snorlax Magnezone, which I'm actually gonna put in low tier. So Berry, if you go second, you can do 100 damage on your second turn. Pretty good. And you have Magnezone ramping it up in the back, so you can just put all the energy on Snorlax, and you know it's 3 basics in 140 HP. You know, pretty tanky actually. You know, you can't 2-shot Arceus, but if you have like 2 berries back to back. You also can play Dawn, so you can do like a berry into Dawn Magnezone like next turn if you have Magneton online. And you know, like a lot of water decks, like they're not the top, like they're not winning, but a lot of meta or like water decks are still getting played around like Swiss and like Top Cut. So if you can run into those water decks, like Magnezon's just gonna sweep through them. So it's very good into those matchups. So this Snorlax deck actually just got let's see, what was it? I just had it. This one got 25th in a 1,000-person tournament, and they're running Marshadow, so they're running Fighting Energy. Some run Shaman. I actually like the Marshadow edition personally because you don't need to obviously run Electric for Magnezone to ramp itself up. Snorlax is colorless. And the thing about Shaman is pretty useless if you dry rare. Like at least more shot if you do start off, you can't swap out, set it up in the back. So yeah, there's like an example of Snorlax Magnezone deck. It's definitely gimmicky, but it definitely can work in this meta if you can like get like a good hand. Next up we have Garchomp. So the thing about Garchomp is just super inconsistent. So it's just not good in this meta. I mean, like if you get lucky and can get Garchomp, it definitely can cook. Actually, maybe like I'm gonna put it in Rogue. Actually, I'm gonna put Garchomp in Rogue. I think Garchomp has potential. I think this Snorlax one maybe has potential. And like I said, Rogue, I'm not saying these decks are good. I'm saying these decks can do all right. And I can see this regular. I can see regular Garchomp doing all right because it can do 150 damage. I don't think Garchomp EX has any hope though. Dragonite's just very bad. She just takes a long time to get set up, and you know it's inconsistent damage. Sometimes you can just do 200 damage on something in the back and lose you the game because you can do like 200 damage on a basic when you needed like 2 points. So yeah. Next up we have Dialga. Licky just played Dialga Arceus. Dialga Probo Pass is the same thing. Like I saying, like some of these decks are definitely better than others. Like I think like Pachi and like these two decks are better than like a lot of these other decks. They're just not good. Like there's no reason to play these over this. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna just keep it real for you guys. I'm not gonna fake. I'm not gonna act like something is better than it's not. Now we actually just have good decks. So this one says Glacion variants. I'm gonna put Glacion variant, and I want to turn over Glacion, remember. So I feel like I have a lot of knowledge on this. I think Glacion is low tier actually. So I think the tournament I won, I faced a bunch of Rampardos and Dialgas back to back. Like this basically all I fought in like 9 rounds or whatever it was. Besides like the 2 Darkrai, so I fought like 7 out of like 9 like Rampardos and Dialgas. I think I got extremely lucky in that run. I don't think I could ever. I don't even know if I could. I think this deck is good. Don't get me wrong, but I can't believe I actually beat all those top decks. So Glaceon 90 damage plus the ability to do 10 at the end of the turn. So 100 basically, and then 110 if it's still alive on your opponent's turn. 140 HP, which like I'm gonna mention. It's very solid, dude. It's very good to the Rampardos matchup. Yeah, but like I feel like the Glaceon variant of Palkia is not the best version. I think these versions are just better and more consistent because Glaceon does take up slots. So even like a Glaceon focused deck, like it sometimes doesn't have enough damage output. Like if you're playing like pure like just Manaphy EV Glaceon, the problem with that, like if you're sort of EV, I just feel like it's kind of like garbage. I don't know. I think Glaceon is very solid. I think the deck is very solid. Like I said, Brad, like a lot of these decks could be so much better if it just wasn't for Arceus. So it's like I don't know what else to say. So this was the Glaceon deck I won. I played 1 Glaceon and then 1 Vaporeon. Basically, I have 2 different engines. I know like traditionally, like if you want like a pure Glaceon deck, what they do is they run 2 Glaceons, 2 EVs, no Vaporeon, 2 Manaphy's, and then 1 Palkia. So that is like a pure Glaceon deck. This is like the Palkia Glaceon variant I ran personally, which I won the tournament with. But yeah, so I think Glaceon's all right. I think Glaceon, dude, I think Glaceon would actually be so good if Arceus wasn't a thing, because Glaceon is also weak to metal. So if it is in the active spot when Dialga does attack, you do take 50 damage, which is more than Aerodactyl can heal up, which can be important. So next up we have Arceus Heatran, which I think Arceus Heatran is a very alright deck. I think probably Infernape is just stronger than it. Personally, it's not bad. Like I don't think it's bad. It's just why, like the thing about Heatran Arceus, so tradition, like I'm trying to like think, I think it's like Heatran Arceus and then Magnezone. So you're playing like 10 Pokemon. All right, it's not bad, you know, that's pretty average for like a Pokemon deck. But the thing is, Heatran is 2 energy, Magnezone charges itself up, but like you have to like choose, like, do I want to attack with Heatran? Like it's not an energy management when you can just play Arceus Dialga. So it's like, and I know I keep saying it's like, oh, Arceus Dialga. It's literally the most dominant deck in the meta. So almost like all of the placings are going to be based off how good it is into that matchup. And like, why play this Arceus variant when this other one is just way better? So it's like, I'm not trying to just keep like repeating the same thing, but like, it's actually just how the game is right now. Unfortunately, last meta, bro, we had so many good meta decks. Space Time Smackdown, I love the meta, bro. That was one of the most fun metas I've ever played in. This meta, I'm gonna be real, bro, this meta kind of sucks. Next up we have Dark Zone, aka Darkrai Magnezone, which is a very solid low tier deck. Gets cooked by Rampardos, like low key. yeah, just, you know, it doesn't really like 140 HP. Like how many times I gotta say, but Arceus can definitely do that. It's a very slow deck in the meta. Also, I was ranking these. I'm definitely not ranking these anymore, but these are not ordered. But Darkrai Magnezone was very good in a meta that was slow. This meta is the opposite. So this is very fast meta because Dialga ramps up so fast that this deck just is not fast enough to compete sometimes. Cause like you're spending like a lot of time like, you know, chipping with Darkrai. They also have Shaman, so you're really only gonna be doing 10 damage if they even have Shaman plus the potions. Magnezone does 110 damage, doesn't even one shot anything, and the Rampardos matchup is not that good either. So yeah, it's just an unfortunate position of the deck is too slow in a meta that's way faster than when it was shining. Like this was the second best deck last season, but the meta went from being slow to pretty fast. Or I mean, it wasn't super slow, but it was just like definitely slower than what we have now. Next up we have Arceus Carnivine, which is a deck that has been fastly growing. I'm gonna put this in a solid. I'm gonna put a solid B tier. Like I'm not gonna order these, like I said. So basically Carnivine Exeggutor EX of Arceus. Some don't play Exeggutor and they play like Rotom. Basically Carnivine offers like fast like 50 damage if you have Arceus for 1 energy, so that's pretty good. Yeah, it's just like a very fast deck in the meta. It's probably like the second best Arceus deck. Like it's been having pretty good results. Like there's always like one, I feel like, in like a big tournament making it through. Like there's like a bunch of like Dialga Arceuses, but then there's like one like Arceus Carnivine, or like 2 of them. I can even like take a look at an example deck too. So we have this. It's just got 5th, you know, out of 1,300 people. Let's see. Yeah, this is the Rotom variant. Let's see. Deck list, open in deck builder. This one's actually playing a regular Rotom, which makes sense. Almost every Pokemon like deck has like tool cards now. So 50 damage for 1. Plus this one to attack the bench and retreat for free if Arceus is in play. 2 Rocky Helmets, yeah, you don't really need that. Almost every Arceus deck is playing 2 Rocky Helmets now. Geo, Sabrina, Dawn. They have the whole package plus Shaman the retreat for free. Then we have the more Exeggutor one, which, you know, I don't think Astro. I mean, this one got 19 out of 13 in the same tournament, so definitely still as good. And yeah, it's just 2 Exeggutors, Carnivine, Arceus. Basically, you going second of Carnivine, Arceus is very strong, 50 damage, and then going first of Exeggutor EX is also very strong. Like Exeggutor's always been good going first, potentially 80 damage. You have the one error card because you're playing 6 grass types. Yeah, it's just like a different version of Arceus where like Dialga Arceus is more like setting up with a bunch of things in the back and then going in. Where like this is just like more like hyper offense. Like I'm gonna like just go straight damage like right away and then build up Arceus in the back after I'm doing like a bunch of 50 to 80 damages. Next up we have Arceus Abomasnow, which I probably think is probably like, it's not the worst version of Arceus. Arceus like in like another like card that like goes over Arceus. I think the worst one is Raichu and Magnezone. Like not the electric Magnezone, like the stone Magnezone. It's alright. It's not bad. I could almost put it in F, to be honest. I think it's very strong. I think it's just not as good as the other one. Like I actually think if like Dialga didn't exist, I think this deck could potentially be seeing play. But it's just, you know, it's not the best variant, so people are just not playing it. Next up we have Darkrai Revol, which is probably the fastest deck in the meta. A solid mid-tier deck. Yeah, it's doing the same thing. It's basically like New Age Pikachu. Revol can do 70 damage, 90 if you already have like energy on it, and then you could like, you know, do the Darkrai attack. And yeah, I mean, you get like 2-3 shot on most of the decks in the game, like very similar to Leafeon, but way faster. Plus you have Darkrai to do actually 90 damage instead of 70 damage on a turn, and you actually have Darkrai in the back, which can do 100 damage. So yeah, it's also been doing better recently too, because basically, like I know I have like these like 3 grass decks in the meta, like basically like these 2 almost, and I almost might just put them in low tier, bro, to be honest. I'm gonna stick Exeggutor Celebi in mid. I'm gonna put actually Leafeon in low tier. Actually, I'm gonna put them both in low tier, bro. I'm gonna be real. Now that I'm looking at this, basically Carnivine is like the only meta relevant grass type deck. So, you know, they have the weakness to grass, so that's like one problem. But yeah, the main thing holding Darkrai Weavile back last patch, it's still a strong deck last season, but there's a lot of grass decks. You know, Exeggutor was the best deck of the game, and that was a very bad matchup for it. Where like there's no grass decks, bro, so like this can definitely like go in the offense like pretty fast. A sample list, which is the one that won the 1,300 person tournament, is almost the exact same one as the one I featured on my channel, but they have a potion. I don't think I had a potion, and they have a Mars. I can't remember. I think it was similar. Okay, I had the 2 leaves. That's all I remember. Like, I think like this stuff is like similar, but like this stuff down here is like a little bit different. I think I had 2 Pokemon communications, maybe. Maybe I just had 1. I can't really remember. Anyways, the deck is super good and offensive. Next we have Gyarados, was very solid low tier. Basically being played with like Origin form Palkia mainly. The Greninja variant also still pretty decent. Greninja variant can, you know, do 160 damage in 1 turn. Can be pretty good against Arceus if you can't get the setup. Although units are stage 2, so the Greninja variant, like, it's a stage 2 and you're playing like so many like Pokemon, you can't really play support cards. So I think the Origin form version is better because you could go like Manaphy and then Palkia and then Gyarados. So that's like 3 things you have to knock out rather than just Druddigon and then Gyarados. So that is something to keep in mind. Darkrai Greninja is gone, bro. I don't know what happened to this deck, because this was like my favorite Darkrai deck. This shit is not good anymore. It's too slow. Doesn't do enough damage. Like, you do like 120 damage on a turn. That's just not enough anymore. We have Skarmory Magnezone, which I personally have not seen in this meta. Maybe it could be a rogue deck. You know what, bro? I don't think it's good in this meta. I just don't think Magnezone is that strong. I'm gonna put Skarmory Bastardon like in rogue just because no, I'm gonna put it. It's just not good, bro. It's just not good. It's like if you're playing a fossil, you just play Rampardos. Like, Skarmory does like 50 damage. Like, that's not really adding up anymore, because like Dialga, you're gonna have to like 4-tap them. So Skarmory is basically useless, bro, against like these decks. Like, against these other decks, like, you know, it's all right, but like even against water decks now, they have Aerodot, bro. So like Skarmory's like not even scary anymore. And then grass types have Erica, so it's like whatever, man. You're gonna like, you have to like 2, 3, 4-tap a lot of things, and it's just not good. We have Arceus Greninja, which I think is like probably like a rogue option. I've been seeing like Druddigon, Greninja, Arceus. It's something, but you know, like once again, it's not the best Arceus variant. We have Starmie Articuno, which it just says temper water variants. I think, okay, so this is mainly Starmie Palkia. I think Starmie Palkia is probably a nice mid-tier option. Like I said, this is Starmie Palkia, not Starmie Articuno. People do not play this deck. And then we have Dialga Melmetal, which is it could be all right. I'll be honest, it could be all right, but just go play Arceus. Just go play Arceus. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I feel like I showed you guys all the deck lists of like most of the like the meta relevant cards. Like, obviously, you know, I didn't show you guys like every single deck list, just like because like some of these just like are not it. And yeah, so there is one deck that is not on this list that I do want to include, which is Darkrai Arceus Crobat, which I do think is probably like a B mid-tier deck. I think it's the second best version of Arceus personally. If not, it's either Carnivine or that. I think it would be in the mid-tier option. You know what? I was kind of like looking at this more when I was editing, and so Abomasnow, it doesn't get played, dude. I think Heatran can still cook. Garchomp is whatever. Yeah, so I basically wanted to move Abomasnow down. I do think the deck is actually really good. I just think there's just better Arceus decks. And I am potentially thinking about moving Leafeon to Rogue. But I think I'll just leave it there for now. I think I'll just leave it in low tier, whatever, because I think these decks are just definitely worse. And so yeah, I mean, these decks can't. I feel like these decks are probably better than Golem. Yeah, I think I just wanted to move Abomasnow down. And one deck that isn't in Rogue that I would put in here would be Blastoise. I think Blastoise is definitely Rogue because it is seeing a little bit more play lately. It doesn't mean it's good by any means, but that's one of the decks I wanted to mention. Yeah, so the only 2 decks are, like I said, are Blastoise, which would be in Rogue, and then Crobat Arceus, which would probably be in B. And yeah, I think that does it for the tier list. I think this meta is kind of garbage. Because, like, dude, how do we have so many low tier and mid tier decks that are actually really good, but they're in these categories? Because we have one gatekeeping. No, anyways, that does it for the video. So if you guys like this, let me know. I'll definitely do one next season, or if like there's any like meta shakeups, like I'll do like an updated one, like a very fast one. I know this one is kind of like long, so you know, you can always just watch in 2x speed. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know in the comments, and peace out and have a lovely day.